Travels, and we'll ask you to leave pretty soon after that, because as soon as that presentation's over for about the next hour, all the volunteers, if you've been here at all this week and you're a volunteer, give us one more hour to pack everything up, and I'll give you some instructions on that. So from about 10:45 till noon, we're gonna pack up everything, and then at noon we've got a volunteer appreciation where we've got some cupcakes for the volunteers who've been here, as well as a few door prizes for the volunteers. So if you've helped out officially with a shift at all this week, come back at noon, well, help us from 10:45 till noon, then we'll have a little thank you, and then hopefully we'll all be done and can go back to our campsites and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Talk to you about that. So come on up, Jake and Andrea. These guys are going to teach you everything you need to know about work camping and how to get a job at the Big Tent Show. Give it up for these guys.
And as soon as my iPad unlocks to reveal my notes. All right, so how many people were here on Monday when there was a presentation about making money from the road? That was with Patty Serrano. This presentation's a little bit different. She talked about kind of like independent work and some mobile opportunities. We're going to be talking about some of the more traditional work camping jobs that are often mentioned in YouTube videos. Bob Wells himself has mentioned them and done some of them. And work camping, by the way, do you spell it? The right way to spell it is without the C. Work camping is one word, W-O-R-K-A-M-P-I-N-G. You usually work in exchange for either a free campsite or wages or both. And it's usually seasonal gigs, but it can turn into a full-time job in some cases. We're going to talk about, well, a few things before we get started. Anything we say should be fact-checked. I ordered these in the order I did them. Sugar beet harvest, I did first. You've done recently, right?
I just did it.
Can you tell us about it?
October of this year, last year. I've done the sugar beet harvest for 3 years. I did Michigan, then I went to North Dakota, then I went back to Michigan last year. They're very different, but the same. First of all, I will tell you, it is very physical. The Express does put out very detailed videos about exactly what to do to get prepared, but I find that a lot of people don't watch them because they get to the sugar beet harvest and they say, oh, it's cold, oh, it's windy, oh, it's snowing. I have to work in those conditions? You do. I've been out there in the snow, I've been out there in the pouring rain. I can tell you, in North Dakota, they are 12 to 13-hour days, and you either work 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or you work the overnight, and you have to switch every year. Both sites include full hookups, so your camping is paid for, which is wonderful. You don't have to worry about that. But keep in mind, you don't get days off. You work, in North Dakota, you work 12 to 13 hours a day until the harvest is done. And sometimes it's 8 days, and sometimes it's 18 days. You just don't know. It depends on the weather. If you are in North Dakota and they cancel your day because of a weather condition, it's too hot, you get 4 hours of stay pay, but that's 4 hours on a 12-hour shift. In Michigan, you work 9 to 10-hour days, which I found to be better for me. They do not have stay pay, but they do everything they can to make you go in for 4 hours, so you're getting 4 hours of pay on a 9-hour day, so that's a little bit better. Again, also free hookups in Michigan. I can tell you that the sugar beet harvest has become really popular and it's filling up very quickly. I've already applied for Michigan for this year, and they said all the rehires have already applied. Last year they overhired because there's usually such a big drop-off. People just walk off the job or whatever. It's they find it's not for them. So they had too many people last year, so I don't think they're gonna hire as many people this year. You have to be very comfortable with being outside under any conditions. And when I say any, I mean pouring rain, I mean snow, I mean mud that's gonna come up to your ankles. You are gonna be working in those conditions. The sugar beets, they're not 5 pounds. Some of them are up to 25 pounds. You have to be able to lift 25 pounds at a time, easily. There's a couple of different jobs. You can apply to be a special equipment operator. If you have some kind of experience in that, you can apply to be like a boom operator. But I never do that because they're $1 million machines, and I don't want to be responsible for breaking a $1 million machine. So I usually just do ground crew. You work sometimes with 3 to 4 people, sometimes you work with 6 to 7. It totally depends on the site and who's available that day. Express does very explicit videos, and if you watch the videos, it tells you exactly what to do to get in shape. If you feel that you can't be on your feet for 9 to 12 hours, I gotta be honest, this job is not for you. Pay this year for Michigan, it's $20.04 an hour. And believe me when I tell you, you don't have any time to go anywhere to spend that money because you're working and sleeping and eating, and that's it. That's basically 3 weeks to a month in Michigan. North Dakota starts at the end of September. Michigan starts at the middle of October. So sometimes you can work North Dakota. If they finish early, you can drive to Michigan if they have positions. I like Michigan. For me, it's better. It's 9 to 10 hours a day. I found it to be a little easier for me personally than North Dakota. Would I go back to North Dakota? I would. But it was very, very remote. Some of the sites are extremely remote. North Dakota had a town of 700 people. Walmart was an hour away, and after you work 13 hours, you're not driving to Walmart. They tell you to bring all of your food for 3 weeks. That's a good idea. When I was in Michigan, I was in a town that had a Walmart, a Tractor Supply, all that stuff. One thing that they tell you in the videos, go to Goodwill or Salvation Army, buy your clothes a size larger than you need so you can put long johns on underneath or anything like that to stay warm. Believe me, you're gonna need layers. Then at the end of the harvest, you take them right over to the trash can and drop them in. You've wasted $10, $12 on clothes you never need to wear again.
And those clothes will stand up on their own by the time you're done with them. You will not be having time to wash them.
And the smell. Sugar beets have a definite smell that will take a while to get out of your rig or whatever. Make sure you have good boots. I bought mine used at REI, and I thought I'd get 1 season out of them. I've used them now for 3 seasons. Don't buy $10 boots, don't buy $20 boots, especially because you're going to be on your feet for 10 to 12 hours a day. You need really, really good boots. I bought shearling insoles for my boots. They were great. They were very warm. They were very comfortable. Hand warmers and foot warmers are going to be your friend. Before you go, buy dozens of them because you'll need them all the time. You'll put them in your pockets. You'll put them in your shoes. You'll put them in your gloves. It's cold. So you just have to be really prepared when you go.
Andrea, I have a they'll accept singles as well because they have enough RV sites for singles. What was Michigan?
Michigan was both. That's a good point that you bring up. If you have pets, there are no pets allowed on the piling sites. So, like if you're in a van, you can't bring your dog with you. A lot of couples will work opposite shifts. So, one can be with the pet and then they switch off. A lot of couples will also arrange for somebody to walk their dog or whatever. I actually walked a friend's dog because I worked the night shift, and so that worked out for them. Now, in Michigan, the shifts were 6:30 to 3 or 3 to 12. And yes, you're there till midnight. You have to stand around sometimes and wait, but you are there till midnight. Make no mistake.
And then another one of the concepts that we need to keep in mind for our camping jobs is our rig. Some places you have to have a motorhome with a tow car or a truck and trailer. If you live in your motorhome and that's your only transportation. At the sugar beet harvest, I found we were not allowed to drive our motorhome on site. Does that match your experience? For
In
commuting to the,
No,
because you're
in
not allowed to walk to the
You
piler.
cannot walk to the harvest, or to the piler, that's correct. Some people did actually have ATVs that they took, and some people who only had a motorhome with no tow. We had a guy who brought his 25-foot motorhome every day. So it depends on the
If it's
piling
small.
site. Yeah.
But it gets, the concrete is so muddy and
Yeah.
slippery, and sometimes you have to park off the concrete. And the piler, as the pile grows with the sugar beets, everybody has to move their cars down a little bit. And if your vehicle doesn't start, it's going to be buried in sugar beets in an hour.
And don't forget the mud. If you're not a big fan of mud, you don't want to bring your very expensive, in some cases, rigs to the sugar beet harvest, to the piling sites, because again, the mud is phenomenal. It's just, it's worse than here in the desert, I'm not gonna lie.
A couple things on my notes from the harvest that I had. Andrea mentioned Express. It's make sure you understand, when you work at the sugar beet harvest, you are working for Express Employment Professionals. They are the hiring company for the sugar beet harvest. You're working at a site owned by American Crystal Sugar, but Express brings you in. And they have a booth at the big tent. I looked at the schedule and the map. They will be back again this year. So you go over to the big tent and you look for Express Employment Professionals.
I think there's actually two. They actually have a booth for North Dakota and a separate booth for Michigan.
We typically talked about Amazon Camper Force. That's been mentioned on lots of YouTube videos, and it is no more. Amazon killed that program for reasons they have not published. One alternative that I did, and it was better than Amazon from what I hear, the J.C. Penney warehouse. They will also be at the big tent. They have their own booth. It's a J.C. Penney work camping program or something. I worked for them in Reno. I got that job by applying at the big tent, and they called me and had me fill out an application and had me do a drug test, and then I was in. That job starts from I did it right after the sugar beet harvest. So they start at this warehouse October, November-ish, but sometimes you can start sooner when they contact you. They say, hey, if you're ready now, come. And go until about 2 days before Christmas. Like the sugar, we didn't talk about wages. You talked about wages, but overtime, this applies to both JCPenney warehouse and sugar beet harvest. Overtime, you get paid time and a half at these jobs, anything over 8 hours in that day, right?
No, actually, in North Dakota, you get paid time and a half after 8 hours, and you work a 12-hour day, and you get time and a half on Saturday, and you get double time all day Sunday. Keep in mind, it's 12 to 13 hours a day, and there are no days off. So you're working over 80 hours a week. In Michigan, you get paid time and a half after 40 hours, and you're only working 9-hour days. So you might be giving up a little bit of money, but in Michigan, sugar beet is usually longer, the harvest.
In both of these cases, that overtime, because it compounds daily, and then some of these, by the time you're working like sometimes 60 to 80 hours a week and into that double time, and the fact that you have no time to go spend money, you can make like, at the sugar beet harvest, I made I think $3,000 in about 2 weeks.
You can make up to $4,000 if the harvest runs long enough.
Correct.
Because they try to stretch it out, so it involves both days on the weekend, because they're smart about this. They want people to come back.
So with JCPenney, you get paid your hourly rate. It varies by state and location. This is on their website. I'll give you that in a minute, or ask at the big tent. They give you a stipend of $100 per week for your RV campsite. You have to find your own campsite. They have agreements with some of the campgrounds in that area for discounted rates. They tell you what those are for the area. They are not just Reno, by the way. They have locations in Texas, Kansas, all over the country. You make your arrangements with that campsite or another one of your choice, and they add $100 per week per person to your paycheck while you're on the clock. If you're a couple, you can be couples or singles for this, but if you're a couple, even though you're only occupying one campsite, each of you gets that $100 a week stipend. So in my case as a single, I was camping at a $150 a week campsite. So I actually paid $50 out of my paycheck for my campsite, but the couples made an extra $50. So it goes either way, and I chose the fancy place. I was staying at the Grand Sierra Resort, returned to. So last thing, in 23 it was $18 an hour at Reno. Again, the wages vary by state. It's somewhat proportional to that state's minimum wage. All right, talked about wages, talked about campsite. These jobs are picker-packer type jobs. You're given a list of things to do and you run around in a warehouse. You grab products off shelves, throw them in a cart, get them to a conveyor belt and throw them on there gently by a certain time limit. Every like 15 or 20 minutes you get a new list and that batch has to be picked, packed, and thrown on the conveyor belt. You are moving. I'm told it is much easier than working at Amazon, that they beat you like dogs there. This is much more relaxing. They like work campers, they like retired people, they think we're better than their regular full-time employees. After working there, I can tell you why. If I had that as a full-time job for years at a time, I would be suicidal. It is not fun. It is mind-numbingly boring. You're looking at tiny, you gotta take your reading glasses, you're looking at tiny little numbers on a sticker and then reading boxes for a tiny little matching number. Don't be off one digit or somebody is gonna get the wrong order for Christmas when this goes out. But it's a good, how many hours a day? So it has varied. When I was working, it was 4 10-hour days. They are now offering 5 8-hour days, depending on location. In addition to that, in the busy season, right around Thanksgiving, it's mandatory 12-hour days, or it was. I think they're backing off on that. And these things change based on supply and demand, the needs of the business at that time. If they get a ton of orders, you need to be available for mandatory or sometimes optional overtime. And Penney is one word when you do that, and it's P-E-N-N-E-Y. So I screwed that up. And the first search result is like JCP something something dot business dot blog. Sounds illegitimate, but it is your starter to getting more information from them. So don't be afraid when you Google JCPenney Camp Crew and see the first result being something like jcp.business.blog. It's real. And we'll have time for Q&A in a minute. Camp hosting. That is a volunteer or paid job where you camp where you work. And again, we talked about it varies whether you get paid for some things or just get a full hookup campsite. Job duties will entail things like greeting campers, answering questions, cleaning restrooms, shoveling fire pits, enforcing rules, dealing with drunks, possibly some landscaping, tree trimming, changing light maintenance, possibly selling firewood, checking in or out campers, possibly collecting money for camp fees and products sold. Other job duties pop up, such as knocks on the door when unexpected incidents happen or people have questions. Sometimes you step outside and find illegal fires where, when it's not fire season, 2 big fires, people destroying stuff, and you have to address it as needed. Sometimes you have to call fire departments, ambulances, and law enforcement to deal with things that pop up. So that's your day as a camp host. Benefits include maybe pay, maybe a full hookup site. Some camp host jobs are very remote. My position up in a national forest has no electricity, no water. I do have a sewer dump, but we are provided generators and a water tank that we have to go fill up ourselves. But it's one of those big water cubes you see on the backs of some trucks here in Quartzsite. So they make it work. Cell phone service may be sketchy, although if internet access is required for you to access a computer system to deal with reservations, you might be provided with a satellite hookup. Spoiler alert, it will not be Starlink, it will be HughesNet, which if anybody knows what it is, it's the worst satellite internet ever made. Um, if you are paid, you will not make a lot of money quickly like the sugar beet harvest or warehouse work. There's no overtime. You're probably going to be paid for something like 20 to up to 40 hours a week. Overtime is often so informal you can't actually log it. There's a joke in the camp host community that we always work about twice as much as we get paid for. The legality of that is a whole nother discussion, but if we love our jobs, we do it just so we can keep our jobs. The way I look at that, by the way, I'm very fortunate. I work at a place in Tahoe National Forest where I actually get paid an hourly wage for all hours worked, and it's 40 hours a week. And I work more than that. And Matthew back there, who worked with me last year, will attest to that. The way I look at it, the time I spend doing the actual hard work, the shoveling fire pits, the hosing down of the shitters, the restrooms, and dealing with campers collecting money if that's necessary, I log those hours, and I do 40 hours of that work. All the other knocks at the door and random questions and emergencies that pop up because somebody toppled a boat over on the lake, I don't write those hours on my timesheet. I see that as, I got a free campsite, I'll do a little extra work for that. Never underestimate the value of a free campsite and volunteering for your campsite, especially if you want to just get your foot in the door at a place. Volunteering first is a good way to do that before get some experience before applying for a paid position. A free campsite. How much do we pay for rent or house these days? Yell out some numbers. 1,500? What's a bigger number? 1,800? And this is for rent for one-bedroom places. That's how much money you're saving with a free campsite. And some camp hosting jobs, if it's scheduled appropriately, you have time to go into town every day if you want to work at Starbucks or McDonald's. It varies by employer whether you're allowed to do that, but it might be an option. I do recommend them. Several groups for work campers of all types, including sugar beet harvest and warehouse jobs, and Facebook groups on camp hosting. There's one called The Camp Hosts. There's another one called Camp Hosting in the USA. And they also join these groups just to watch the chatter, because they'll also blast bad employers. There are lots of bad campgrounds. And even with, I've seen American Land and Leisure get blasted because somebody went to a location with bad management. Your managers can make the difference. I am so lucky and blessed. I have great managers. We're like a family. Heck, we come back every year just to see each other. But that's not always true. Again, take those reviews with a grain of salt. Everybody else has a good or bad experience that's unique to them. We are expected to model good behaviors because we are camping in the same places as the people we're our customers. So we pick up our trash. We don't hoard stuff outside of our campsite. We keep our dogs on leashes. So if you think you're not ready to model that good behavior, hold off on a camp hosting job till you get those skills nailed down. Also, if you haven't been reading online last few years, campers are now horrible. I don't hate my job, I love my job. But on TV you see people smiling and cooking foods and stuff. But Isaac, when he presented the other day, was not wrong. You're babysitting drunks. And dealing with those illegal fires and getting yelled at. Nobody likes to follow rules after they've had a few beverages. On that note, if you get a remote job, and if you're in a van or vehicle and looking for I know it's Q&A time. These jobs are great for RVers or vanners. Some locations will not accept a van lifer. They want to see an RV. All of these locations will mandate a hard-sided vehicle. No pop-up canvas-sided trailers or tents. That's for your safety from wildlife, and also you might have a money handling role, and where you have to stash money in your area, it needs to be locked up. We're not ready yet, Ernest. Oh, you're just getting them lined up? can clash with each other throughout the season, so you want to think carefully. One year I was able to do the sugar beet harvest, followed by Penney warehouse, followed by camp hosting. Now my camp hosting job goes so long into the season, I can't do sugar beet harvest or Penney anymore. Other jobs real quick that you could look for work camping. Adventureland in Altoona, Iowa. That is an amusement park. They give you a site and pay you wages while you work the rides, work in the stores, do stuff. Look them up online. DigiKey. It is also through Express Services. DigiKey is a electronics warehouse type job up in Thief River Falls, Minnesota? Yes.
It's way up there.
But they do offer positions there before the sugar beet harvest if you don't know what you're doing for the summer, right?
Do DigiKey, sugar beet, and go right back to DigiKey.
Yes, so more work camping opportunities. Oil field security, such as gatekeeping. That is usually, if you've heard of that, you're working the gate in front of an oil field, logging trucks that come and go. That is a 24/7 job usually, so they usually want couples because somebody has to be awake at all times, somebody has to be on site while the other half goes to town. If you need to look more into that, you can check out Guard One Services. That is one company that has a good reputation.
One thing about that though, you have to look into it because you have to be fingerprinted, you have to do some online classes, you have to do all of those things before you can get licensed. You have to have a license in the state of Texas. There are some hoops you have to jump through. They're probably at the Big Tent, but you can't just sign up for them and go to work. There's definite steps you have to take for that, including fingerprinting, so you don't want that information out there. That's not the job for you.
I was wondering about like the state and national forests about dogs. Like, do a lot of them allow you to have a dog if you're working there?
Yes, usually. I have a dog who rides with me in a work truck while I service my remote campgrounds, and they allow that and encourage that. There are ones that don't. I always recommend you ask the employer, or if once you get referred to management of a location within that employer, ask them how they feel about it for that area. But it is very common and popular for camp hosts to have dogs, including riding around with them in the truck or the golf cart, based on friendliness of the dog.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, my name's Matt, and I own a carnival up in Iowa, and something you didn't mention was carnival work. We are looking for people, and we do hire a lot of campers, so if you're interested, you can go to gotchagamesiowa.com.
gotchagamesiowa.com. And will you be around? Would you like people to approach you if you're going to be, say, find me here?
Sure, that's fine. I'll be around here after the presentation. I'll be right over here by the fence.
All right. Thank you.
I actually want to say one thing quickly. I do not have a dog that travels with me, but I do have a cat. And honestly, nobody ever asks about cats. So if you guys have cats and you want to be somewhere, you're all good.
Hi, my name's Roland. What time is the tent open tomorrow?
Maybe 9 or 10, but if you're going tomorrow, be prepared for many large crowds. I mean, really large crowds and long waits.
But on that same note, though, American Land and Leisure, the camp host jobs went fast last year. I went to stop by and say hi to people on day 2 or 3, and the board that had the pins had so many, filled. So make your own decision. Crowds, get job fast.
Hi, my name's Andy from Montana, and I wanted to know, a lot of people, you need the individual qualifications for jobs. Do all these people that hire the nomadic lifestyle frown upon or look differently if you're in an SUV versus a van versus a proper RV? Do they think that's a particular qualification if you're not set up like super elaborate?
It depends on the employer. In some places, you have to be, quote, self-contained, or they don't hire you. Sometimes you can get around that. It's best to talk to the employer wherever you go.
And just because that employer publishes on their website, no vans must have a full RV, talk to them anyway, because sometimes they make exceptions. Where I'm at, you can be in a van. They say an RV, but I've known people who did my job before me in a van. The more remote locations, and honestly more beautiful, vans are great for, because sometimes the full RV cannot get to some of these remote locations, and they want van lifers. They may not say it on their website because it doesn't apply to the other 90% of their locations and jobs that they're offering. Never be afraid to ask. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Leanna. I have worked at DigiKey on the beet harvest, and last year I did Yellowstone National Park. But one thing you didn't mention was RV delivery, which one of the first thing I did when I saw Bob Wells do an interview with Miss J.
That is a job. I would not call that a work camping job. So but it is a valid job.
I saw the videos too, but you know, you have to be prepared. You're driving somebody else's RV, and I don't go to that one.
And you are not allowed to sleep in it on the mattress, even though people can't use the toilet. You're not allowed to say that out loud. They're not allowed to know that. I mean, seriously.
Do you have to be self-contained for that? Like, are there showers?
So it depends upon the facility you go to. The facility I work at is at a fairground in Michigan. That's where we camp, and they have showers and a bathroom and everything. And I think it's different for each location. So be sure you ask.
Yeah, and if you talk to them, they will work with you to assign you a location to one that has those showers and stuff. I've seen that before. Yeah. Yeah, tell them your needs. You work with it. They are really good about working with you if you are good about asking them up front, because they do want good workers, and they'll do that. Last question, I believe. Is that correct, Yuri? All right.
My name is Connie, and I registered and paid for Work Camper News and had a job in Alaska in 3 days.
Yes, I meant to mention that as a resource.
Yeah, I have Work Camper News. It's a great deal. It gives you jobs all over the country, and you can use all of their resources if you subscribe to their service. And they have thousands of videos archived for you to watch.
Also has been recommended a website called workersonwheels.com. I haven't intimately dived into that, but it has been recommended by multiple people. So Work Camper News you find through workcamper.com. Again, that's WORKAMPER.com. Workersonwheels.com, and we are about to get hooked off the stage. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Andrea, Jake. Let's get up for you guys.
More filler. You want to sit there?
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you. You're a great audience. We are a great community. And I just appreciate you so much. And we'll see you down the road here, right here next year. Okay, thank you. Take it away.
Unless we find a place to camp together between now and then, all right? If anybody knows of 40 acres of privately owned land or not federal government land that we can move the RTR to, that's always our goal. I mean, we work with the federal government, but it's just cost prohibitive at this point. We've come to the end. Some of you have been here since the WRTR started 8 days ago. Some of you might just have been here today, but we want to thank you for coming out. The RTR is for the community, and we're all part of the same community, whether you've been on the road for a day, a week, or 15, 20 years. We want to make life better and easier and more fun for this nomadic community that we all are a part of. So thank you for being a part of the RTR. And a big thank you to the about 180 volunteers that gave their time. You know, every night we have 3 people at least that are here overnight to watch over everything. We have security and parking folks that come in at 7 a.m. every morning. And then we have all the activities that are going around with all the people that you see. And this didn't just start 8 days ago. Field setup started 2 weeks ago, and the RTR planning began about 6 or 7 months ago. So we're going to take a couple of months to sleep and regroup, and then we're going to hit it again. And I hope that everybody here would consider volunteering for the RTR next year. And if you haven't registered for this year's RTR, please do so, because in the next few days we're going to send out a survey to ask you what you enjoyed about the RTR, what we could do to improve it for next year and keep building this and making it better. And I have a special announcement. Our goal for the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous was to raise $25,000. And overnight we count the money and the money that's donated online. And this morning I did the adding up as I was adding the next lines to our little thermometer over here. And when I went to add it up this morning, we were at $24,978. Hold on, it gets better. And I was standing there and I did the math quickly in my head and I said, oh, we're only $22 away from our goal. And I was coloring it in and I looked down on the table and one of our volunteers had put $22 on the table. So we made it, $25,000.
Safe travels, everybody. See you down the road.
Oh, if anybody who did setup or tear down, come see Reed. Everybody else, break down the sections, take them over to the home plate, and we'll see you back here at noon for volunteer appreciation cupcakes and prizes.
That's cool.
So Reno, Nevada.
Good morning. Bye. Thank you. Yeah. Is there room for 2? All right, thank you. Thanks.